Alrighty guys, so we're doing some things today. So right now I'm working on doing the wiring for the pump. So I'm just gonna do some of these little terminals here. Hold on, bud. So I'm just gonna do some of these little terminals. I'm gonna do like a male on this one, a female on this one. I usually do that when I have some type of a positive negative circuit, just so you can't flip-flop them, so you always do it the right way. So I'm gonna take the male on here, and now I'll find one of these females, and then I'll put the female on this side. These are separated by color, so I mean they're pretty easy to identify, but that's how I would usually do it either way if it's the same color. Sometimes I use the same color wiring for stuff just because that's all you have laying around. But okay, so I'm gonna slide that over. Slide this little turkey on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat shrink this, and then I'm going to do a heat shrink over the actual seal once I put them together, and we'll go with that. I have no idea where my channel locks is that I usually use for my crimper, so we're just going to use a vice grip, squeeze the happiness right out of it.
No, I will see you later, Pete. See you, brother Ben. I saw you steal.
My son keeps trying to come in here. My 1-year-old. Alright, so that is tight on there. Go ahead and slide this over. This is pretty tight here. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm just going to give this one a smash and see what that one does. Smashy, smashy. Well, that's fine. So that one's a little bit smaller. I'm just going to hit it with the torch. So those look okay. Now I'm gonna do, I also, and I didn't even notice this, somebody actually pointed this in the comments when I cut this thing off of there. I was thinking that this was wiring, the only wiring left was for the plug for the pressure sensor, and that was actually the wiring for the level sending unit. So I sliced that all off, so I went and re-spliced it. So now I soldered and heat shrink that wiring back in there, so I will have a working fuel gauge. So thank you, Mr. pointed that out. So yeah, now I'm gonna go through, and this should be pretty much ready to go and drop back in the tank for the final time, and I'll show you the wiring, rest of the 8-gauge wiring. Alright, so I dug up some more wire out of my pile. This is all 8-gauge wire. This is like 735 strand OFC copper wire, 8-gauge. There's some fat stuff, so I'm going to use that for the fuel pump wiring. This is actually the same wiring that I hooked up to that before, so I'm not going to use the one I used before. I'm going to make all new wiring and make it all one solid section, connected from front to back, relume it, and we'll be good. Alrighty guys, so I'm gonna take the split loom, heat shrink, whoop, put that over first. Can't tell you how many times I've soldered something and never put the heat shrink on. That's always fun. Leave a comment if you've done that. It's kind of funny. So these are all 8-gauge. They're not going to fit in these because they're 10-gauge. So I'm going to trim some of this wire off until it fits.
Ready, set, go, Theo, move, move, move.
So I'm going to take enough wire that I know is going to fit in here. And then I'm going to trim the rest of it off.
Bye,
So that should be good. I know, guys, I'm not worried about trimming the wire off because I know there's probably some people out there that are watching that are like, well, it defeats the purpose of running a big wire if you're just going to trim it off. Well, not really. That's all I'm going to say. So, we're going to do this. Smash it. Tight. That one should be good, and I did verify that this has a female end, and the negative over on this side has the male end. So that'll go in right. Did verify that beforehand. So now I'm going to do the same thing with this. So this is a female, this one needs a male. Trimmy, trimmy. So it might seem a little strange that you're like trimming all this material off, but you're adding more material on here with the crimp, and you're really losing a little bit of a section here. So you're basically not losing any conductor, and this is way oversized anyways for what it is. So maybe I'll use my actual wire cutter. Work a little better. Oh, that was pretty smooth. Cool, cool. All right, so let's put this on. Smashy, smashy. Tight. And then we'll hit it with the torch. Alright, cool. Alright, so we got the whole supply, everything hooked up. Wiring is done, got the relay underneath. Ground is coming over to the terminal. I'm gonna have Mama turn the key for a minute. Hold on, don't do it yet. Just want to show you this. I want to show you this stream, what this stream looks like. Okay, go. One more time. Ooh yeah, that's a lot of gas. Alright, so like I said, I got the supply all done. The return is pretty much good. I was going to do the ethanol content sensor tonight, but look at that thing. I pulled the little red cap off, you know, the cap that protects it, and it was all smashed. So I emailed the company about it. I might just have to buy a new one. I don't know if they'll replace it because I bought it like a month ago, but we'll see what they do. I don't think that's going to seal. I would maybe just try to fix it, but I don't even want to mess with it because it's not really worth it. It's like 20 bucks and it's gas. So we are going to see if we can get that thing ready. If not, I just won't do the E85 anytime soon. And by anytime soon, I mean like in the next 12 minutes. So we'll get a new one of those things ordered or replaced. Either way, what else do we got going on? What can we talk about? So I put a little bit of gas in the thingy dingy here. And that's what we were pumping out before. I just went with like a vacuum cap on here. This thing is actually pretty snug on there, so that might be pretty gangster. I went ahead and spliced the positive and negative wiring together and then heat shrinked over it. And I did do a little bit of tape actually over the heat shrink on this side just because it has two wires going to one. I wanted to snap that thing down a little bit tighter. So here's the original plug, completely cut off now. I ran all of the wiring out through here, soldered and heat shrink this schmingy diggy here, soldered and heat shrink this thing. I did do a little bit of RTV. I know you guys are going to yell at me for that because it's gas, but it's just on the top. It's not like on the bottom. If there was like an extreme situation and this thing was way over full and sloshing around, it might touch a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. So this is what it looks like going forward. The gas line and the wiring go back. I put the wiring that's inside the loom against the frame rail because I don't have this inside of anything. So this comes up on top of this plastic wiring section here, goes through all the way this way, and I chose to put the fuel line inside of this little hanger clip there. This is, you can see this transition, this is the fuel line, the return fuel line, and this is actually some heater hose that I wrapped around the return fuel line. And then I decided to go with some radiator hose because we have this pinch weld right here against this transition, and I just don't really like it. So I wrapped some radiator hose around the supply fuel line just in case that decides it wants to rub at all, to protect it a little bit. And that's pretty much that. But honestly, that fuel line is so thick it would take a very, very long time with a little bit of vibration to rub through, but just for some added protection, did that on the pinch weld. So this thing's working out pretty good. Should be done tomorrow. I'm gonna throw the intake on and just do the final touch-ups on the end, the supply and the return. Probably just wait till I put the intake on. So I started thinking about something a little bit last night and kind of maybe had an idea. The first time that I took this thing out with that new transmission mount, the new poly mount, the bell housing broke. So I started doing a little bit more research on mounts. Usually in my head, I guess I was thinking flex mount, good. You usually want the stronger mount to be in the front on the engine mounts. So I believe the factory Ranger mounts are like a rubber type mount. So when I switched to the poly mount, it was stiffer. So this may be a reason or a cause of this whole ordeal and the transmission bell housing failure. I still don't have a way to confirm it. It's just something that I thought of because the first time that I took it out with that transmission mount, it broke. And I had been driving the shit out of it for quite a while and didn't really change much else, but I had the factory rubber transmission mount with the factory rubber engine mounts. So now I'm kind of thinking I do want to either go back to the factory rubber transmission mount or stiffen up the engine mounts. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you have any experience with it, like if you've done it, if you've had issues with it, let me know. So my current thought here is I want to stiffen up the engine mounts, go to a poly engine mount or a solid engine mount with the poly transmission mount, or go all rubber mounts. But just something that crossed my mind. I did a little bit of research about it, and it kind of seems like that might have been my issue. I would hope not, because it was literally an $11 part. And if it was the $11 part that I put in there that destroyed the whole thing, that's kind of a bad situation. But let's look at this. So this is kind of why I started looking at this. Here's my hand. This is pretty soft. It doesn't go side to side much, but I get nervous about that. So not really nervous, but it just kind of makes me wonder, because this is like really soft and that poly transmission mount is really hard. So maybe there's a potential for that to be my issue, and that's what caused this whole thing. So the engine is creating the torque and the transmission is transmitting the torque through the driveline. So if I did have a situation where I'm over torquing and the engine is twisting farther than the transmission wants to twist, it would break the bell housing. So yeah, just another thought. I think I'm gonna go through and do it just in case, because I really don't want to go through all of this crap, and the same thing happens because of an $11 transmission mount that's harder than the engine mounts. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of rambling a lot right now, but just thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I'm even thinking about a way that I can confirm it, because that's how I work. That's how my brain works. I want to test stuff and I want to confirm it. So in order for me to confirm it, I would need to break it again. So I would like to do something that I know is not going to break it, and then do something, be happy with it, and then break it. So that's kind of how my brain's at right now, or where my brain is at right now. Maybe we should run it, do what we want to do with it, and then go back to it and see if we can break it the same way. Let me know what you guys think. Have a good one. Or something.